In the heart of the dense forest, as dusk settled in with a gentle yet eerie embrace, the world seemed to hold its breath. The rustling leaves whispered secrets, and distant animal calls intertwined with the cool evening breeze, creating a symphony that was both haunting and mesmerizing. Amidst this natural orchestra, a young boy's voice emerged from the shadows, a mere whisper carried by the wind. Mary sang to me until sunrise. The forest was a living entity to the locals, an ancient guardian of tales untold and mysteries unfathomed. To David, it was a playground of endless possibilities, a realm where his imagination could soar unbounded. Yet, despite its allure, the forest bore a reputation that kept many at bay. Legends spoke of spirits and echoes of the past that lingered among the trees, tales that were enough to stir caution in the hearts of even the bravest. His heart was set on adventure, his mind on unraveling the mysteries the forest held. On the edge of the village, where the last houses met the first towering trees, the forest loomed, a constant invitation to explore. The villagers, a close-knit group bound by shared histories and traditions, often gathered to share stories, some infused with elements of truth, others embellished with time. His friends, aware of his fearless nature, often teased him about the forest, daring him to prove his bravery. And so one evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the sky transformed into a canvas of deep blues and purples, David found himself standing at the forest's edge, the air thick with anticipation. "Dare you to go into the forest after dark?" they taunted, their voices a mix of excitement and trepidation. David, his heart pounding with a mix of fear and exhilaration, accepted without hesitation. To him, this was more than a test of courage. It was an opportunity to step into the stories he had only ever heard. The path was familiar at first, well-trodden and lined with the comforting sounds of nature settling for the night. But as he moved deeper, the familiarity faded. The forest seemed to shift around him, the path dissolving into a maze of towering trees and whispering winds. David paused, his breath quickening as he realized the path behind him had vanished into the darkness. Panic simmered beneath the surface, yet he pushed it aside, determined to find his way. David's heart raced, his mind a whirlwind of thoughts as he grappled with the realization that he was lost, truly lost in the forest. David stood at the edge of the forest, the towering trees casting long shadows under the dimming sky. His heart raced with anticipation, a mix of excitement and trepidation. His friends, gathered in a semicircle behind him, whispered and nudged each other, their faces a blend of encouragement and mockery. "Go on, David," one of them urged, his voice tinged with the challenge of the dare. "Show us you're not afraid." He recalled his grandmother's tales of the forest, stories woven with wonder and caution. The forest, she said, was a place of secrets, where the past whispered through the leaves and the present danced with shadows. But David was not one to back down from a challenge. He took a deep breath, the cool evening air filling his lungs, and stepped forward, the earthy scent of the forest floor rising around him. As he ventured deeper, the chatter of his friends faded into the rustling of leaves and distant calls of nocturnal creatures. The path, well trodden by day, seemed to twist and shift under the cloak of night. The trees, tall and ancient, loomed like sentinels, their branches intertwining to form a canopy that blocked out the last vestiges of twilight. David paused, glancing back over his shoulder. But the way he had come was now obscured by the thickening underbrush. A twinge of doubt prickled at the edges of his mind, but he shook it off. He was on a mission, and nothing would deter him. He realized he had ventured farther than intended, the familiarity of the path giving way to the unknown. She had always spoken of faith, of finding strength in prayer when the world seemed overwhelming. He closed his eyes, trying to summon her calm, her unshakable belief that nothing was insurmountable. Yet, amidst the cacophony, a new sound emerged, a melody, soft and lilting, weaving through the trees like a silken thread. It was a voice, gentle and soothing, singing a lullaby that tugged at the corners of David's memory. He hesitated, torn between the instinct to flee and the inexplicable pull of the song. It reminded him of his grandmother's stories of Mary, the mother of Jesus, and the peace she embodied. Against his better judgment, David found himself drawn to the melody, each note wrapping around his fear, tempering it with a strange sense of calm. And so, with a heart full of both fear and newfound hope, David followed the voice, unaware of the challenges that lay ahead, trusting that somewhere in the melody he would find his way. He paused for a moment, trying to calm his racing heart, but the shadows seemed to dance ever closer, threatening to engulf him. But now, standing amid the towering trees, all he could feel was fear. The fear of the unknown, of what might be lurking just beyond his sight. The fear of never finding his way back. But faith seemed a distant concept now, swallowed by the shadows that crept ever closer. He closed his eyes, whispering softly, hoping that the simple act of prayer might calm his frayed nerves. Despite his fear, or perhaps because of it, he felt an inexplicable urge to follow the sound. With renewed resolve, he took a tentative step towards the direction of the voice. The path was fraught with obstacles, thorny brambles that snagged at his clothes, and steep inclines that challenged his endurance. Yet, with each step, the voice grew clearer, its soothing melody a beacon in the darkness. It was as if the forest itself was guiding him, shaping his path with purpose. Her faith had always been a source of strength for him, a guiding light in times of uncertainty. He whispered a prayer, seeking strength and guidance, feeling a connection to her teachings more profound than ever before. It was as if Mary herself was watching over him, her presence a comforting balm to his frayed nerves. The forest was a labyrinth of shadows and whispered secrets, each rustle of leaves a reminder of the unknown. As David stood amidst towering trees, the realization of his solitude hit him like a wave, threatening to drown his bravado. He was a small figure in a vast, mysterious world, and fear began to gnaw at the edges of his resolve. The cold wind wrapped around him, carrying the scent of earth and damp leaves, a stark contrast to the warmth of his home. David's breaths were shallow, each one a desperate attempt to steady his racing heart. He had ventured into the forest on a dare, a challenge to prove his courage, but now the darkness seemed to close in around him, each shadow a spectre of doubt. The voice was ethereal, drifting through the trees like a gentle breeze, soothing and comforting. Despite his trepidation, he felt an inexplicable pull towards it, a beacon in the night that promised solace and safety. David's mind raced with memories of his grandmother's stories, tales of Mary, the mother of Jesus, whose presence was a symbol of peace and protection. Could it be that this voice was a manifestation of those stories, a guiding light in his darkest hour? The song continued, unwavering and clear, leading him through the tangled undergrowth and towering trees. It was a melody that seemed to resonate with his very soul, imbuing him with a sense of purpose and direction. David's heart, once heavy with fear, now beat with a renewed sense of determination. It was as if the forest itself was whispering encouragement, urging him forward with each step. The voice was not just a guiding light, but a reminder of the faith that had been instilled in him, a faith that was now his own. The journey ahead was uncertain, but David was no longer afraid. The mysterious song had rekindled his hope, illuminating the path before him with a gentle, unwavering light. With faith as his guide and the voice as his beacon, he pressed on, ready to face whatever lay ahead. Yet the path was fraught with challenges. The terrain became increasingly difficult to navigate. Thick brambles scratched at his arms and legs, and steep inclines tested his endurance. Each step demanded focus, as the ground was uneven and covered in a slick layer of fallen leaves. The forest seemed to shift and change as if it were alive, presenting new obstacles with each passing moment. It wove through the air like a gentle breeze, urging David onward. With every note, the fear that had initially gripped him slowly transformed into a quiet determination. He recalled his grandmother's stories about Mary, whose voice was said to bring peace and guidance to the lost. This thought gave him strength, and he pressed on, even as a chilling wind began to whistle through the trees, causing him to shiver. Thompson sat alone on his porch, nursing a cup of tea. His eyes were fixed on the forest, a place he had come to know intimately over the years. He sensed something was amiss, a tugging feeling that compelled him to act. The forest had always held secrets, and tonight it felt as if one of those secrets was calling out to be found. Mr. Thompson stood up, setting his cup aside, and donned a warm jacket. He knew he had to go into the forest, though he didn't fully understand why. As he prepared to leave, he spotted a small group of villagers gathering nearby, their faces etched with concern. Lanterns were lit, and voices called out into the night, echoing through the stillness as they ventured into the forest. Mr. Thompson led the way, relying on his deep knowledge of the paths and clearings that few others in the village knew. His heart was heavy with concern, but he also felt a strange sense of assurance, as if the forest itself were guiding him. Back in the depths of the woods, David stumbled over a root, his hands instinctively reaching out to steady himself against a nearby tree. He paused for a moment to catch his breath, listening intently. The singing voice was still there, clear and unwavering, a comforting presence in the darkness. He whispered a quiet prayer, drawing strength from the familiar words. "Please, help me find my way," he murmured, his voice almost lost in the wind. As if in response, the voice grew stronger, more insistent, leading him toward a direction that felt somehow right. The brambles and thorns seemed to part just a little, allowing him to pass with greater ease. It was as if the forest itself was offering a subtle, gentle guidance, nudging him toward safety. Thompson listened carefully, his senses heightened, trying to catch any hint of David's presence. He recalled the stories of the forest's guiding spirit, tales passed down through generations, and hoped that such a spirit was indeed watching over the boy. As he continued, the obstacles seemed less daunting, and the path, though challenging, seemed to clear before him as if guided by a benevolent force. The forest was a maze of shadows and whispers, its ancient trees standing like silent sentinels under the night sky. David, though just a boy, felt an uncanny pull toward the voice that had been guiding him, a melody imbued with warmth and familiarity. Each note seemed to wrap around him like a soft cloak, offering protection against the encroaching chill of the night. With every step, he felt less like a lone wanderer, and more like a part of something larger, something sacred that he couldn't quite name. He thought of his grandmother, her stories filled with faith and resilience, her voice always steady and reassuring. They were prayers for strength and guidance, for courage and clarity. He recalled how his grandmother would hold his hand, guiding him through each line, her faith a cornerstone of his young life. Now, alone in the forest, he clutched those memories tightly, finding strength in the familiar cadence of his whispered words. The forest spoke to those who listened, he often said, and tonight it was screaming of something amiss. He had seen David enter the woods earlier, a spark of youthful determination in his eyes. Now, as the night deepened, Mr. Thompson felt an unshakable sense of urgency. He gathered the townspeople, each of them carrying lanterns that flickered like stars fallen to earth. They formed a line, their voices low and determined, each one driven by the unspoken fear for David's safety. The community had always held a mix of awe and respect for the forest. It was a place of legend and mystery, a living tapestry of stories old and new. As Mr. Thompson shared tales of the forest's history, the group felt a renewed sense of purpose. They recalled the legends of guardians and spirits that watched over lost souls, guiding them home when the path seemed darkest. These stories, woven into the fabric of their lives, gave them hope that somewhere in the maze of trees, David was not alone. The voice was his guide, his beacon in the night, and as he followed its ethereal path, he felt a profound sense of trust growing within him. David felt a curious sense of peace, an assurance that he was exactly where he needed to be. He believed, as did they all, in the power of community and the quiet strength that came from believing in something greater than themselves. With renewed resolve, he continued, each step a testament to the trust he had placed in the mysterious melody that led him through the night. The voice, now clearer and more comforting than ever, resonates through the air, filling him with an inexplicable sense of peace and warmth. It feels as if the very essence of the forest is embracing him, whispering secrets of ancient wisdom and love. He closes his eyes, allowing the gentle melody to wash over him, each note a promise of safety and hope. In this moment, David feels a profound connection to something greater than himself, a spiritual bond that ignites his faith in ways he never imagined possible. He recalls his grandmother's words about faith being a guiding light, and for the first time he truly understands. The voice isn't just leading him out of the forest, it's guiding him towards a deeper understanding of himself and his beliefs. Standing in the clearing, he feels part of something timeless and vast, as if he is not just a boy lost in the forest, but a participant in an ongoing story of faith and redemption. His initial venture into the forest was driven by a desire to prove his bravery to his friends, but he now understands that true courage comes from within, from facing one's fears and embracing the unknown with trust and faith. The voice of Mary, serene and unwavering, has not only guided him through the darkness, but has also illuminated the path to his own heart. David feels a profound gratitude for the voice that has accompanied him, a gratitude that extends beyond words. It is a gratitude rooted in the understanding that he is never truly alone, that there is always a guiding presence watching over him, offering solace and courage even in the darkest of times. The clearing, with its tranquil beauty and the comforting presence of the voice, becomes a sacred space of reflection and renewal. David knows that when he leaves this place, he will carry with him a renewed sense of purpose and a deeper connection to his faith. As the moonlight bathes the clearing in its gentle glow, David feels ready to face whatever challenges lie ahead, armed with the knowledge that faith and love are the true compass in the journey of life. David felt the wind picking up as he stood in the heart of the forest, the trees swaying violently around him. The sky was darkening with heavy clouds, threatening a storm that mirrored the tempest inside his heart. He had followed the voice, the soothing melody that had guided him through the night, but now faced the raw force of nature itself. With each gust, his fear mounted, the shadows seeming to leap and twist with malicious intent. He wrapped his arms around himself, shivering not just from the cold, but from the uncertainty that gripped him. It was then that David realized he had a choice: to let fear consume him, or to find strength in the voice that had been his guide. "Mary sang to me until sunrise," he whispered to himself, recalling the quiet assurance those words carried. The realization hit him like a warm wave. The voice was not just a comfort, but a revelation. It was Mary, the spiritual presence his grandmother had spoken of, a manifestation of faith that transcended the tangible world around him. He was not alone, and he never had been. He opened his eyes, feeling the storm's fury less keenly, and gazed around the forest with newfound clarity. The voice was not just leading him, it was a part of him, a connection to something eternal. His heart swelled with gratitude, his faith renewed and fortified against the trials of the night. The path might be obscured, but he knew he was guided by a force that transcended the physical. As the storm continued to recede, David reached a clearing, the moonlight breaking through in shimmering beams. It was here that he paused, letting the moment envelop him. The voice sang softer now, a lullaby that seemed to echo in his heart, a reminder of the spiritual journey he had undertaken. The clarity of his revelation buoyed him, filling him with a sense of triumph over the fear that had once threatened to overwhelm him. In this moment of stillness, David felt a profound connection to the world around him, an understanding that faith was not just a guide, but a companion on life's journey. He knew that this experience would remain with him, a testament to the power of belief and the strength it could provide in the darkest of times. He knew that waiting for him were the arms of his family, the warmth of his community, and the enduring comfort of the faith he had rediscovered. The voice that had guided him throughout the night, its ethereal tone echoing with warmth and reassurance, had led him steadily towards safety. It was as if each note sung had been a beacon, cutting through the darkness and fear, leading him towards hope and salvation. Thompson and the search party, their faces etched with concern and hope. The sight of them, of home and family, ignited a joyful warmth in his chest, dispelling the last vestiges of his fear. His steps quickened, feet barely touching the ground as he rushed forward, the call of his name ringing through the crisp morning air. "You found your way back, lad. We never lost hope." "Oh, David," his mother whispered, her voice choked with emotion. "We were so worried. Thank God you're safe." The forest holds many mysteries, and faith has its ways of guiding us when we need it most. The return to the village was a procession filled with joy and gratitude, the news of David's safe return spreading quickly through the tight-knit community. People emerged from their homes, faces alight with relief and curiosity, eager to hear the story for themselves. It was a moment of unity, of shared faith as they gathered to welcome David back into their midst. The fear that had gripped him in the forest had given way to faith and a deeper understanding of the spiritual presence that had guided him. He felt a profound connection to the stories his grandmother had told him, to the lessons of faith she had instilled in him. It was as if the very essence of those teachings had come alive, guiding him back to safety and reinforcing the belief that he was never truly alone, even in the darkest hours. As the sun continued to rise, casting a warm glow over the village, David knew that this experience would forever shape his understanding of faith and community. He had been lost, both physically and spiritually, but had been found again, guided by a voice that promised hope and reassurance. And as he stood surrounded by family and friends, embraced by the love and support of his community, he realized that this was only the beginning of his journey. David stood in the center of the community hall, the morning sun streaming through the windows, casting gentle patterns on the wooden floor. His heart raced with a mixture of excitement and apprehension as he prepared to share his extraordinary tale. The room was filled with familiar faces, neighbors, friends, and family, all eager to hear about his night in the forest. There was a tangible hush, a collective breath held in anticipation. "Thank you all for being here," David began, his voice steady despite the flutter of nerves. He glanced at his grandmother, who gave him a reassuring nod. "I want to tell you about what happened last night and how it changed me." David recounted his venture into the forest, the dare that had seemed so simple and harmless in the daylight, yet had transformed into a daunting ordeal as darkness enveloped him. He spoke of the initial panic and the overwhelming sense of isolation that had gripped him as he realized how far he had strayed from the path. "She sang to me until sunrise. It was like she was walking beside me, leading me to safety. Yet through it all, Mary's voice had been a constant, a beacon of hope in the darkness." For a community that had always revered the forest's mysteries, David's story was a testament to the power of belief. David wrapped up his tale, his heart full. "This experience taught me that faith is like a light in the darkness. It doesn't always show us the whole path, but it gives us the courage to take the next step." In the days that followed, David's story spread throughout the community, becoming a cherished tale of faith and divine intervention. It sparked conversations, deepened bonds, and renewed the collective spirit of those who had gathered to listen. And for David, it was the beginning of a new chapter, one where he understood the power of faith and the strength of the community that had always been behind him. Emerging from the shadows of the forest, David felt a profound transformation within himself. The once timid and curious boy now walked with a newfound maturity and a deeper spiritual awareness. The journey through the forest had not only tested him physically, but had also stretched the boundaries of his faith, a faith that his grandmother had carefully nurtured within him since childhood. As he approached the edge of the forest, the memories of the previous night played vividly in his mind. The ethereal voice that had guided him, the moonlit clearing that had offered him solace, and the storm that had threatened to overwhelm him. Each moment had been a test, a trial that he had faced with the quiet confidence that the voice had instilled in him. Thompson's determination and the community's unwavering support had been more than just a rescue effort. They had been a testament to the power of collective goodwill and faith. He understood now that help often came from unexpected places, and he was deeply thankful for the unexpected allies who had appeared in his time of need. It was a humbling realization, one that filled him with both appreciation and a sense of responsibility. The experience had also brought into sharp focus the teachings of his grandmother. Her stories of faith, of divine protection and guidance had been more than just tales. They had been foundations upon which he could build his courage. The voice he had heard in the forest was not just a guiding light in the darkness, but a manifestation of the teachings that had been whispered to him during quiet evenings by the fireplace. It was a connection to something larger than himself, a reminder that he was never truly alone. The ordeal had drawn them even closer, each person playing a part in the narrative that had unfolded. David realized that his story was now interwoven with theirs, a thread in the rich tapestry of their communal life. He knew that the simple act of saying thank you held immense power, a small gesture that could convey the depth of his appreciation. It was a lesson he intended to carry forward, a reminder that gratitude was a vital part of his newfound maturity. It inspired not just David, but those who heard it, reinforcing the belief in the divine presence that watched over them. The story served as a reminder of the power of faith, a guiding light that could illuminate even the darkest of paths. The forest, once a place of fear and mystery, had become a symbol of growth and transformation, a sacred space where he had encountered the divine. As he looked to the future, David was filled with hope and determination, ready to embrace the challenges ahead with the courage and faith that had been kindled within him. In acknowledging the support he had received, he recognized the interconnectedness of their lives, a bond that would continue to inspire and uplift them all. The sun had just dipped below the horizon, casting a warm golden glow over the fields that stretched out like a comforting quilt of nature. His grandmother, a woman whose eyes held the wisdom of years and whose hands were as soft as the stories she told, sat beside him, her presence a beacon of warmth and love. "What was it like being out there all alone?" "Faith is a powerful thing, my dear. It can guide us through the darkest times. I always knew you'd find your way. I'm just glad to be back, he replied earnestly. Thank you for coming to find me, Mr. Thompson. The community had rallied around him, their collective strength and faith illuminating his path home. I was scared, he confessed, looking out at the familiar faces of friends and neighbors, but I wasn't alone. Mary's voice was there, guiding me. It was like all the stories Grandma told me came alive. As the evening drew to a close, David's heart swelled with gratitude. He had learned that true strength came not just from within, but from the community that surrounded him, from the faith they all shared. As he stood amidst the laughter and warmth, he realized that he was part of something much larger, a tapestry of lives and stories woven together by belief and love. In the gentle glow of morning light filtering through the window, David sat quietly at his desk, the events of the forest still vivid in his mind. The experience had changed him profoundly, and he felt an inexplicable peace settle in his heart. He picked up a pen and began to write in his notebook, the words flowing effortlessly. It was a letter to himself, a testament to his newfound understanding and appreciation for life. Dear David, he wrote, you have walked through shadows and emerged into light. You have learned that faith is not just a word, but a living force that guides and protects. Remember the strength you found in the forest, the voice that sang to you, and the warmth of the dawn. He paused, reflecting on how the experience had stripped away his fears, replacing them with a deep-seated gratitude. The trees swayed gently in the breeze, a reminder of the forest that had once seemed so daunting. Now it felt like a sacred place, a sanctuary where he had encountered something beyond the ordinary. He knew that every step he took from this moment would be guided by a purpose that was both personal and profound. Thompson had been more than a neighbor. He had been a beacon of hope and a testament to the power of community. David realized that he was part of a web of connections that would always support and uplift him, no matter how lost he might feel. Thank you for showing me that faith can light even the darkest paths. I promise to carry this light forward, sharing it with others who might find themselves lost. David understood now that true courage lay in acknowledging vulnerability and trusting in something greater than oneself. He knew he had a story to share, one that could inspire others to look beyond their fears and embrace the unknown with faith and resilience. It was a story of transformation, of finding light in the midst of darkness, and it was a gift he was eager to give. The future stretched out before him, full of promise and potential, and David was ready to embrace it all. In the quiet village nestled at the edge of the mysterious forest, David's story had become a beacon of hope and reflection. As the days turned into weeks, the tale of the boy lost and found resonated deeply with everyone. Conversations in the village square often began with, "Did you hear how Mary sang to him?" It was as if a new chapter had been written in the village's history, one that intertwined faith, mystery, and the warmth of community bonds. The story spread like wildfire, reaching beyond the village to neighboring towns. People were captivated by the account of a young boy who, when lost and frightened, was guided to safety by a voice that many believed to be divine. It wasn't just a tale of survival, but a narrative that spoke to the power of faith and the relentless spirit of a community coming together to support one of its own. The experience had left him with a profound sense of responsibility. He understood that his story was not merely his own, but a shared testament to the strength of belief and the unseen threads that connect people to the divine. He often found himself at the local church, speaking to groups of children and adults alike, sharing not just the details of his night in the forest, but the lessons he learned about courage, trust, and the power of prayer. His words were not just recounts of the past, but invitations to look inward, to find strength in moments of doubt, and to trust in the guidance that faith can provide. It was not uncommon for David to be approached by villagers seeking advice or comfort, and he listened with a maturity that belied his age. His connection with Mary, whether seen as spiritual or metaphorical, had instilled in him a wisdom that was both humbling and inspiring. The community, having witnessed the ordeal and its miraculous resolution, found new ways to express their collective faith. Gatherings were organized where stories of hope and divine intervention were shared, creating a tapestry of experiences that bound the villagers together. Mr. Thompson, whose intuition had been pivotal in the search for David, often spoke about the history of the forest, weaving in legends and truths that highlighted the mystic beauty of their surroundings. David's parents, initially overwhelmed with relief, now watched their son with a mix of pride and awe. They saw a transformation in him, a maturity that came with understanding the importance of the intangible forces that shape lives. They encouraged his newfound role in the community, supporting his desire to lead others in prayer and reflection. One crisp morning, as dew clung to the grass and the sun painted the sky with hues of orange and pink, David stood before a small group gathered in the churchyard. His voice, clear and steady, carried a message of hope. "We are never truly alone," he began, his eyes meeting those of the villagers. "In our darkest moments we can find light if we trust and believe." They left the gathering with renewed spirits, grateful for the reminder that faith could indeed light the way through the darkest of paths. This realization permeated everyday life, influencing decisions, fostering kindness, and encouraging a deeper sense of connection with one another. It became a part of the village legacy, a tale passed down through generations, teaching children and adults alike about the power of faith, the strength of community, and the enduring light of hope. He would continue to share his story, ensuring that its message of divine presence and unwavering faith would never be forgotten, leaving an indelible mark on the hearts of all who heard it. This tale of a boy lost but ultimately found in the mystical arms of the forest speaks volumes about the unseen forces that guide and protect us whenever we dare to believe. It's a story that resonates not just with the young or the adventurous, but with anyone who has ever felt lost and in need of a guiding light. The forest, once a backdrop of fear and uncertainty, transformed into a place of revelation and spiritual awakening, symbolizing the journey we all must take at some point in our lives. The image of David leading a prayer group underscores his commitment to sharing the lessons he learned, not just through words, but through actions and faith. His experiences remind us all that faith, however it manifests, can be an anchor in the stormiest of seas. And while David's story is unique, the emotions and lessons are universal, touching upon the core of human experience: faith, hope, and the kindness of community. Now, as we bring this story to a close, it's important to recognize the impact such narratives can have. They encourage us to reflect on our own lives, to seek out the light in our darkest moments, and to believe in the power of stories to inspire and connect us. If you found David's journey moving, imagine the many other stories waiting to be told, each with the potential to touch hearts and change lives. Your engagement and support can help bring more of these inspiring tales to light. We invite you to subscribe to our channel, where we delve into stories filled with hope, courage, and the unyielding power of faith. By subscribing, you become part of a community that values uplifting narratives and the sharing of experiences that can inspire and transform. We believe in the power of stories to unite and to offer solace in times of need, and we want to continue sharing these with you. Moreover, if you're eager for more, we have another story lined up that's sure to resonate with those who appreciate tales of resilience and faith. Click on the suggested video link to continue your journey with us. Each story we share is crafted with care and a deep understanding of the human spirit, designed to inspire and uplift. Remember, just as David found his way through the forest, guided by an unseen presence, we too can find our paths, illuminated by faith and the support of those around us. Stay curious, stay hopeful, and let's continue to explore the power of stories together. Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear how faith and community have played a role in your life. Together, let's keep the conversation going and inspire one another to find light in the darkest of places.